I'm so glad you decided to join us today. This is the Words for Life podcast, where we share perspectives, principles, and testimonies that will positively impact your life. And I'm your host, T. Farrell. We have an amazing show today. It's a little bit different, but it's amazing nonetheless. But before we get started, I wanted to tell you about a book that I've been rereading. It's a book called Be More Today, a 40-day guide to a better version of you. It's written by my partner, Dr. Sean Thomas. The book has some very good principles in there to help you be more. That's really what it is. If you don't have the book, go to Be More Today Book. BeMoreTodayBook.com. You can get yourself a copy. If you already have a copy, tell somebody else about it, reread it. The concepts in there will change your life. They will, if you apply them. If you apply them, they will change your life. Now, to get back to our episode today, today's episode of the Words for Life podcast is with my good friend, Kirk McDonald. Now, Kirk and I, we go way back, over 20 years. He's a good friend of mine. But just in case you don't know who Kirk is, because he's a friend of mine, he might not be a friend of yours yet. So in case you don't know who Kirk McDonald is, I'm going to read a little bit of his bio. Kirk McDonald, one of the 50 vital leaders in tech, media, and marketing, according to Adweek. Kirk is the CEO of GroupM North America, where he leads 6,500 people passionate about sharing the next era of media where advertising works better for people. With 17.6 billion with a B, in media investment billings across the U.S. and Canada, GroupM owns a 22% market share in the world's largest region. Kirk was the CEO of one of the first companies to introduce behavioral advertising and continues to stay on the bleeding edge of marketing and advertising. But above all, he's a man of character. He's my good friend. Kirk McDonald he's a giving dude. He's just a good dude. When I first started my recording studio, told him about it, and he said, "Hey, I got some carpet here. I think he bought the wrong color or something. Something wasn't right." But he's like, it's brand new, and you can come by, pick it up, carpet your area, carpet your studio, and he's that type of, he didn't have to do that. Drove all the way out there. He drove back with me in the U-Haul truck, helped me unload the truck. And this is a dude that he doesn't need to do it. He could just say, "Hey, it's over here, pick it up. I'll be somewhere else. I'll be on the golf course or whatever." He's just a real giving dude. But I wanted to bring him in because we've had conversations about marketing. And now with the pandemic, everybody seems, which is a good thing, to be finding their passion or finding out what they really want to do. So teachers are taking that a little bit more seriously. People that run their own businesses, artists are starting to put out more projects. And while the doing is fine and the educating yourself is fine, the marketing always seems, from my perspective, seems to be left behind. And people don't understand marketing. And sales and marketing is this ugly word. It's like, "Oh, and I'm not a salesperson," or marketing. If I build it, they will just come. And it does not work that way. So Kirk and I, we've had conversations, and his insight on marketing based on the position, how he's been in the corporate world, is to me invaluable. So I wanted to share that with everyone. It's not typically what you hear on the Words for Life podcast. We normally don't run down the business road, but this was just such good information. I wanted to share it with you, and hopefully it will inspire you to do more than just build what it is you plan to sell or what it is you plan for people to utilize. So without further ado, my interview with my good friend, Kirk McDonald.
What's up, T. Farrell?
I love it. I love it. Kirk and I, we go back over 20 years. Started out
Yep.
with Alpha and Omega singing group, Christian singing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then he just went. He just kept soaring up and up and up. And
Uh,
I'm happy to call him my friend. I really am. Really am.
I appreciate that, Terrence. And God be praised. That's not on me. That's really following my curiosity, but really allowing the Lord to lead in my life. And really, He's the one that's opened doors. Even when a door closed, He had a bigger door planned, and you know, He should get all the glory. It's not. It wasn't designed. It's not on my back. It's on. I'm following His footsteps as best as I can. That's it.
That's awesome. 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 I love it. I love it. So to dig into the topic of marketing,
Yeah.
there seems to be a whole lot of questions, more questions than answers right now with this COVID time. Just wanted to get your perspective before we even dig in. What paradigm shifts do you think people should have in this post-COVID world?
Well, look, we still, to your point, have fewer answers than we have questions. There are more questions in front of us. We don't quite know how confidence is in consumer behavior will come back. Now, one of the agencies that I'm now responsible for has studied is what are consumer behaviors around this. And it all is a equation for the consumer, which is what are the things that I'm willing to do that still cause me to feel at risk, because that's the worry we all have. So whether it's how badly do I want to go to church, and am I willing to risk this illness, this sickness that doesn't seem to have instant remedies for going to church? How much do I want to go to work? Right now, we're all grappling with how much do we want to send our kids to school, and the trade-off is, well, I still have to work, and the kids at home and where they're getting education, I don't want them to fall behind. But then at risk is the uncertainty of how will I deal with this illness if the illness strikes me. And those are the issues that we're dealing with. I think you're going to see it take a while for consumer confidence to come back in a bunch of different areas, because the mental calculus, the mental equation of what do I put at risk for what do I gain is still trying to figure itself out. The current trend in behavior is people are social. They need to be with each other. So you're beginning to see families expose themselves to family members. Then families or friends are exposing themselves to friends, trusting that at least my peer group of friends are using or being as precautious as I am. The bigger challenges are when we have to go friends or take ourselves and family into environments that involve strangers. And again, that's going to get harder because now you don't know. This is also having a big impact on retail and commerce in general. And we're also in an election year. So I think there's just a tremendous amount of uncertainty that is affecting the market and affecting consumers overall.
Right.
Post-COVID, and let's be clear, post-COVID is not post a vaccine being available. It's post a vaccine being widespread and disseminated. So you're going to have the vaccine, in a window of time, but then ready availability and everyone having the vaccine. And then we've still got to look at how people's bodies react to that. Then we get to a point where this thing stabilizes. If you really do that, you're beginning to realize we're not talking about still a couple of months. We could be looking out even a year from today before we're truly post-COVID.
Right.
I think you're going to see so much change between now and then. We're learning to worship differently at church. We're learning to educate differently at school. We're literally learning to interact and work different professionally. So the post world hasn't been defined yet. So do you actually need to be in the office 5 days a week, 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock? Companies are going to figure that out. And every company's needs are going to be a little different. What does virtual learning really look like? We don't know all the answers yet. We're still experimenting. And then even virtual worship, right? You and I are faith-based and we go to church every Sabbath. How does that affect us? So I don't have a post-COVID answer. And anyone who does, is way ahead of this themselves. They just don't know yet. I will say this: the tools to be successful are to stop holding on to what was and to embrace what's coming. And be thoughtful, be practical. And then, I benefit, you, Terrence, benefit from the fact that there's certain things that we know that are just not in our control. And so that we put our trust in God to take care of, we put our trust in other systems that we trust. But that's a big part of it. But let go of what was, because it's not going to go back to that. It's going to go to something new, and we don't know what the new thing is. So anyway, that's how I think about it.
No, I think that's a very grounded perspective, and it's a realist perspective, because we don't know yet. We really don't know.
We don't.
And I've seen a lot of people in this time find their passion, find the thing that it's like, I've been putting it off, and now I have time to dig into it, and I'm going to start. And this is what led me to bring you on to talk about marketing a little bit, because people say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to follow my passion of putting out music, or I'm going to really dig into teaching, but they don't think about the marketing side of it. And I guess I wanted to ask you, what do you wish people really understood about marketing?
Look, when marketing is most effective, you don't even know that you're being persuaded or encouraged to do something. It actually feels to you like it's your original idea. That's when marketing is most effective. So the best marketing is completely transparent, and you don't feel it. It doesn't touch you. Done well, you have a new idea, or you think, and again, the times have changed, but there was a time where you were like, hey, I should go on vacation and I really would like to see Europe. And you don't know where the thought came from, but you really felt like you should do that. And you automatically assumed that this airline is the best airline for you to use to go to Europe and to go to London. The tourism board for the country you're trying to go to has been working on you. The airline has been giving you fares and offers. All of that has been happening in the background, but it was your original thought, right? You need to buy a car, but why one Asian auto manufacturer versus one domestic auto manufacturer? Well, marketing done well has convinced you that certain cars, and I'm purposely not going to name their names, but certain cars feel safe. Now, even as we're saying this out loud, everyone listening knows when I describe a safe car, they have 3 or 4 car brands that they think are safe, versus some cars feel exciting and sporty. Now they've got a different list of car brands that feel exciting and sporty. Some car brands feel impractical, but like decadent, almost like, yeah, I'd love to. And you've got that brand. And now that's different for everyone, but marketing has created that education. Marketing has created that sense where you're confident in your answer that this is the best airline to fly to this country. This is the best next car for me. And marketing has done its job in the background. So sometimes people mix up marketing and sales. The truth is, sales is the end result of effective marketing. And marketing is all about getting someone interested in the thing you care about. So marketing is essential, even if a sale transaction is not the end of it. So for example, why do your college-aged high school kids want to go to the University of wherever? That they've never visited that university. They've never gone to the university, and I will use some names, University of, Florida or Indiana, or they, even in our community, they want to go to Oakwood. Actually, that's all marketing. The only reason they know, having never studied there for a week, is there's been a marketing campaign underway by alumni or others. We don't even realize, but college sports is all about marketing colleges. So marketing is around us all the time. And the thing I wish most people would understand is there's nothing bad about marketing. It actually is pervasive. Like without it, commerce doesn't happen. Your decision around the toothpaste brand in your home happened because of marketing. Now, the other thing that most people don't realize is your access to content and entertainment is underwritten by marketers. So everyone enjoys the internet. You enjoy Googling stuff. You enjoy finding answers to stuff. how do you think that's paid for? No one ever goes through and think through, well, who's paying to keep the internet working? Who's paying to actually have me see all these shows on, on the different services I use? Right. Ultimately, the role of marketing is that as well. It's not just to persuade you, but it actually underwrites and creates really free access to a tremendous amount of information around the world. And that's really what happens in the world of marketing.
Mm-hmm. Now that's you just explained it, and it was a beautiful explanation on a large scale. How does now the teacher or the person that has a ministry effectively think about marketing themselves or their idea, where it doesn't feel like sales, where at the end of it's like, it's not buy my CD, hey, I'm a good singer, and which turns people off.
Yeah. So there's a theory about marketing that when marketing is perfect, sales doesn't need to do any work at all. The transaction happens because ideally in every effort of marketing, there is an interested consumer. I'm not going to use the word buyer because in every instance, the person doesn't have to use money to right. appreciate what's being offered, right? Mm-hmm. But there's an interested party that wants something, and they don't even know they need it yet. But effective marketing helps them become interested in something they want or need, and then their desire to then make the commitment is really driven by marketing. So when you think about being an individual and you start thinking, well, how do I start managing my personal brand around a service I offer? And that service can be singing, right? That's my art, that's my form, that's my craft. Or I do live music production and I want to market that. Or I'm doing a website that is all about knitting if my passion is knitting. Mm-hmm. I think the first part of that is you have to be authentically who you are. The second part is to really figure out who's the audience that you care to reach out to. Because see, not everyone just because I'm into knitting doesn't mean that everyone in the world is into knitting. It means that there's a group of people that are into knitting. I just have to find a way to find them. And if I'm authentically talking about my passion for knitting, those people, when they find out about me, their interest will be piqued by what I have to offer, and that union can be formed, right? Sometimes that involves a monetary transaction. Sometimes it's just the alignment of like-minded people. So here's where everyone's doing marketing right now, all social media platforms. You're constantly marketing. So the only reason that you have a following of 40 or 400 or 4,000 is because you've said, this is authentically me. These are some of the things I do. And people are now interested in that because you've piqued their interest. Now, some people go over the top. So these are the crazy things I do, or these are the dumb things I do in order to create that. And their interest is in the entertainment value or how close you come to killing yourself all the time and some of the silly things you do. But either way, it takes an effort at telling a story about an authentic version of you or a made-up version of you, like actors and actresses, for the purposes of saying, look, are you interested? And if you're interested, click the follow button and follow me. If you're interested, become one of my subscribers and pay this fee to subscribe. If you're interested, hire me to come in and do your plumbing for you. But here is why I am good at plumbing. If you're interested, here's the ministry I offer. And if you care about that ministry, invite me into your home through these virtual platforms or come to my service, because now you can get more of the thing I've made you aware of and then generated your interest. And there's a hierarchy of this that's been traditionally how we've looked at this, which is for you to become a active person that does something, you first need to become aware that it exists. You need to create a preference that you like this version above others, then engage to get more information in the process of preference. Then you take an action and actually purchase or buy or sign up or subscribe, right? So those stages of marketing require different efforts. But even as individuals, when you're thinking of how do I market myself, you have to start with what is authentically me? What is that authentic service I offer? And then why is it different? Because after I make people aware, I've got to convince them it's better than another thing, right? So that preference builds, and then ultimately make them an offer to say, to engage further, here's the value of the transaction. All you need to do is click follow. Then I've got you. Or here's the dollar amount that costs you to get more of this thing that you're interested in. But ultimately, that's how you should think about your efforts at marketing.
I appreciate that. And too many times, myself included, the thought process is I have to appeal to everyone. Like my market is everyone on this earth, and if I just make the net wide enough, I'll get more people. And narrowing it down, I'm finding out is the better way to spend less money and get better results.
Yeah, so there's this thing called negative brand equity. Negative brand equity can build up, right? So go back to the thing we talked about earlier. This rise in behavioral advertising, or marketing that is targeted to someone's behavior, tracked through a device, comes about simply because too often I see things or I get messages that are never going to be relevant to me. And if I see it too much, literally start building up a negative perception about the brand. And the message that actually is relevant to my neighbor or to someone down the street or someone in another state actually is annoying to me. And now all I remember about that brand is, I mean, really, do I have to see that ad again? Do I have to see that commercial again? That offer has nothing to do with me. Can someone please stop me from seeing that again? So even as you build your personal brand, you don't want to cast an infinitely wide net. You have to figure out, what am I creating the content for? Some of the strongest brands have just said, look, I'm doing this for me. If you want to follow, then follow, but I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for, when it talks about personal brands. The biggest brands that have grown, when you think about things like, remember, 20 years ago, there wasn't like Instagram, there wasn't TikTok, right? These things started so that people could self-express, and just by self-expressing, have 1 million people following them. Like there's marketing happening in a really fast cycle. How do you do that for your business? Whether you're a plumber, carpenter, musician, or you believe your ministry needs to be marketed, be authentically yourself, and then find people that are interested. And don't expect everyone, because there's no reason for me to be interested in a plumber until I have a need. So the question is, when I have the need, how do I find a plumber? But you got to think about that for ministry too. There is no reason that I'm looking for, answers in religion unless I'm looking for answers in religion. Now, if I'm looking for those, when I find it, it's going to be rewarding. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do awareness marketing. You should, but you just shouldn't assume that everyone you show this to is automatically interested. Not all of them will be, but those who are will be they'll pull towards it. But this is why it has to be authentically real. Because see, if you try to appeal to everyone, you're actually deluded for everyone. Right? I'm going to say that one again. If you appeal to everybody,
right,
you're deluded for everybody. So then it's not relevant to anyone. Now, if you're actually very relevant, you'll find the person who really cares about what you have to say, and then it's going to work. And, we're increasingly competing for attention, right? So the consumer today has more choice than they've ever had before in terms of access to content, high quality content, whether it's videos on YouTube, it's all the different over-the-top streaming services. For those who don't know what that term is, it's Netflix, it's Hulu, it's Fubo TV, and on and on. It's HBO Max, right? You have so much access, and it doesn't cost a lot. I mean, I get movies and TV shows on Amazon just because I'm an Amazon Prime customer. And I get, by the way, they can let me store infinite amount of photos. All of this is available. You would think that you almost have infinite supply of information and content to entertain, to educate available. Yet still, since the beginning of Genesis, there was the night and the morning were the first day. And we broke that down to 24 hours. So you've got finite hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those have to be spent sleeping. Some have to be spent working. So you only have a finite amount of hours you can devote to near infinite amount of content. Now you want to, as a marketer, come stick your nose in between me and my content consumption. And I'm just thinking that you really are fighting this game of relevance. How can I make sure my message is relevant? So don't appeal to everybody. But if you find the people who, when they're looking at content, are interested in what you do, then that's going to be a winning combination. That's all.
That I think is key. I really appreciate that perspective. That sums it up right there. That's why I got you here, Kirk. That's that's exactly why I have, because it's key information. Too many people go into this just not knowing the right way to approach it. Let me say it that way. They're like, oh, well, the more people I appeal to, the better it'll be. And it's you eloquently broke it down why that doesn't work.
So you have to be disciplined, right? So awareness marketing versus preference or comparative marketing versus like drive to call to action, right? So in terminology, there are ads that are call to action ads, and you see them in certain categories. Like there was a time when you and I are old enough, you had to market why you need a mobile phone. No one needs to be made aware of why they need a mobile phone anymore. Mm-hmm. Now everyone has one. And now most of the marketing in the cellular category is about preference. You want to know T-Mobile versus Sprint versus AT&T versus Verizon. So they make claims and arguments which sound like, I have greatest 5G coverage. I have better 5G coverage. Two different arguments, by the way. Mm-hmm. Subtly, the marketer knows why one says I have the most and one says that I have better. One's a quality issue, one's a coverage issue. But they do that. And you don't realize it, but that's marketing. And tons of people sat in rooms for hours, by the way, to figure out, do we claim we have the greatest coverage or do we claim we have the best quality coverage? Mm-hmm. They do that. They make that because that's comparative. They know you're going to compare one versus the other. Mm-hmm. Then there's call to action. And the call to action says, we're going to give you 5G plus phones for your family and unlimited data for this price. Mm-hmm. Now I'm trying to get you to take the action, different type of marketing. So now break that down to, again, your ministry or your services as a contractor, a plumber. What do you do at the awareness level? You just need to figure out, where do people go to look for plumbers and contractors? And I just want to be there saying, hey, I'm a plumber. I'm certified. I'm an electrician. I literally have my credentials to do the work for you. That differentiates me. Then here's a call to action. And my fees will be the following, right? I guarantee my work for this amount of time. When you come down to marketing your services, again, you want to start a following of the fact that you're a fitness person and you work out all the time. You want to share what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Again, everyone in the world doesn't care. By the way, there are millions of people doing the same thing. So why don't you start by just making that out to a circle of people in your network? And then if they like it, they'll share it. And if they like and share, it'll continue growing. But here's the thing. If you're trying to appeal to everybody at the beginning, I guarantee you it's not that interesting to share. But if you're being authentic to who you are, because maybe your eating habits, your lifestyle as a Christian, decided to be vegan, combined with a particular workout regimen, combined with something that is, again, authentically who you are, mm-hmm. Those people that are looking for that, even if they weren't aware they're looking for that, they'll gradually find you. They'll not just find you, they'll be happy about sharing you to other people, and the like-minded connections will happen. The technology allows that to happen, and potentially for you to grow your story. So anyway, be authentically you.
I think that's what we're going to title it. Be authentically you. I think we just got our title for this. I appreciate you. For everyone listening, I hope you really put into practice some of the things that were said here. It can help you out, whether, like you said, you're a plumber, you're a singer, whatever it is. Take these things, think about it, pray about it if you want to, but they're practical things that work. Again, we thank Kirk for sharing his time. This has been the Words for Life podcast. I was going to say project, because we have a Words for Life project. We're on volume 3. If you want to check us out,
Nice.
We're on iTunes, everywhere. We've got different concepts and perspectives. We produce music behind it. It's really cool. But this has been the Words for Life podcast. And just in case you missed last week, we got some excerpts that we're going to put right after this. So stay tuned. Here it comes. Again, Kirk, I really thank you. Good looking out, bro.
Good seeing you, T.
So my testimony was that the birthday before that communion, I was feeling really depressed. I call it like my low wave. I didn't want to be alive anymore. And it's a sad thought, but I was thinking, you know what? If I die today on my birthday, then no one has to remember me and be sad for 2 days a year. Because, you know, people who pass away, you remember them on their birthday and then you remember the anniversary of their death. And to me, I was like, well, it'll just be one day. So this will make it easier for everyone. So there's being suicidal, and there's something called suicidal ideation. It's more like thinking about, I wish I wasn't here. And that's more of like what I experienced. It's just like, I don't want to be here. I'm over everything. Everything seems gloomy. I'm in despair. And sometimes it's not for any particular reason. It's not because I lost a job. It's not because I broke up with someone. It just comes. And I tell God, I'm like, you know, if I go to sleep tonight, I don't have to wake up tomorrow. But I do believe in God. I worry because, you know, they say, like, if you take your life, then you can't ask for forgiveness because you're dead. You can't ask for forgiveness. But also, like, in little ways, through people and through a random sermon I might listen to or somebody's words, even something I see on Instagram or Facebook, God lets me know, like, it's okay. It's gonna be okay. And he reminds me, which I try to remind people, that this world is a rest stop. So don't worry if you're feeling that way. We were never intended to feel this way, even though it does happen. But in the end, if you believe in God and you go to heaven, we won't feel like this anymore. So I try to think of that. Does it always work? I don't know. But he's bringing me through. There's always something that makes me feel like, oh, you know what? I guess it's not the best thing to die, even though at that moment I'm feeling that way. If you're not dealing with it, it's hard to wrap your mind around the fact that someone's sad for no reason. People are sad because they lose things or things hurt. But I wake up and I'm like, this is the worst day ever. Did anything happen? No, I just woke up. And then I can wake up the next day like, oh, I'm good. Let's go party. If you only knew the despair that one could feel, it legitimately feels like my life is a train wreck. And the hardest part is that you can logically recognize your blessings. You could say, I'm blessed. I have a job. I didn't get fired during COVID. I didn't get the virus. All my family's alive. Like, imagine understanding logically all those things and recognizing you're blessed, and then somehow still feeling like your whole family just died on a plane. You can't explain that to someone, because that's what I feel. When I'm in that state, I feel legit despair. So feeling that, and especially not being able to explain it, is so rough, because you're like, what's wrong with me? I'm blessed. Why do I feel like I don't want to live? Why do I feel like the world hates me? People could be checking on me and I'll be like, nobody cares about me. And you just feel that. If it's something I'm dealing with for the rest of my life, it's not what I want, but it's kind of like, hey God, can you give me the tools? Can you send me the friends that'll at least be there for me? The sun can shine on this day instead of it raining, because that affects it too. in little ways, through people and through a random sermon I might listen to, or somebody's words, even something I see on Instagram or Facebook, God lets me know, like, it's okay. It's gonna be okay.